Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our long-running series, The Unported Playlist, where I take some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. But that's not true today because we're in the middle of JANKtoberfest 2, Bad Game Boogaloo, and that means we're playing Kabuki Z. I know what you're thinking, two Taito games in the same JANKtoberfest doesn't really feel fair, but this one was not developed by Taito, just published by them. This is a Kaneko game, and that doesn't make it any better, folks. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But what is Kabuki Z? If you can't tell already, it is a beat-em-up hack-and-slash hybrid game where you do have a full range of motion in sort of a pseudo 3D space. You are not on a linear line like something like the original Rastan, but it does have a lot of that same vibe and flair going on with the hack-and-slash. And technically you have the ability to attack on 3 different ranges as well. You have an upper strike, a mid strike, and a lower strike with your sword, and by holding down the attack button and up or down at the same time, you can kind of get into a duel with your opponents. At face value, it was a great idea, and execution, it is complete jank and clunky as hell. Because even the first boss, the most simple in the game, is going to block and parry you basically the entire time. It doesn't matter what you pick, it's basically a rock, paper, scissors system, except the AI seems to be able to predict exactly what you're going to do and block you every single time. You'll see here in real time, I'm just trying to get a single hit on my opponent, and I finally get that upper strike going, but the minute I take some damage off, they figure it out. It is a cat and mouse game of trying to understand where their blade is and getting above or below it. And like I said, in theory this is a very good idea. In execution does not work whatsoever, but at least we get a nice decapitation. Now moving on to the second stage, stick with this video because things are going to get really weird towards the back third, but I don't want to spoil it too much. I will say this game at least looks nice in spots. These fire effects here are really nice to look at, but we just have skeletons running at us in like leather biker onesies. I do not understand this game's theming whatsoever, and it's just going to get weirder from here. But the game also gives you a lot of time to do nothing. The screen will be scrolling, you're waiting for the next enemy, you think those flames are going to hurt you, but they don't. Only the things falling from the ceiling, those burning logs, will do any damage. You will spend 10, 15, 20 seconds of Kabuki Z not actually playing a game whatsoever. In this screen transition, they want to drop you down to the floor. It just basically scrolls and looks terrible. Now I am emulating this. It's not a cheat board and I certainly do not want to own it. So it's possible a few of these little things are emulation glitches. But honestly, even if they weren't, this game wouldn't be any better for it. And you just see here as we continue to scroll, we got some hanging bodies in the background. It is a good vibe. This game feels like it had some sort of potential, but it was completely squandered because it barely even feels like a game in spots. This feels like something that was not finished and was rushed out the door to try to sell something, and that'll make a lot more sense soon. And you will see there that I beat the boss with 1 strike, and for the first time in the history of Video Game Esoterica and Unported Playlist, I had to resort to using MAME cheats to actually get this done, because even on the easiest difficulty, it is impossible to beat this game, and every time you die, you go back to the beginning of the stage. It would take me days to get a capture of this, so I did cheat. Do I feel bad about it? Absolutely not, because I want to show you more Kabuki Z. But at least we get this really nice big moon in the background. That looks good, and all of this blowing grass in the foreground, it does have a nice look, but look what happens here when I hit this enemy. We just slide across the floor, that screen transition pushes us, and you do get this fun little effect here where his back is bulging, almost like in the movie Aliens, and these 2 women just squirt out of the back of him. It is a fun look. We have that giant dragon in the background. I can't say that this game doesn't have a vibe going forward. It really tried, at least in the first 3 levels, to have sort of a continuity about it, even though there's only like 1 Kabuki character in the entire game. But this is where it's going to get really weird here in just a second. Once we finally hit what looks like Peter Pan here, 1 hit, because I've got cheats on for a 1-hit destroy of the bosses, otherwise it takes a minute. This lightning bolt is going to come in, we're going to be transported into another area, and suddenly our character is going to change completely, and we're in a different themed game entirely. I will say at least that this game does have a decent soundtrack, so listen for 45 seconds, and I'll come back and tell you why I think things just changed. I mean, it's a C tier soundtrack, but it's an F tier game, so we have to give it credit where it's due, and the soundtrack is 100% decent and works what you're trying to do. But as we move on to the next stage, what I really think is going on here, I've got no evidence of it other than feel, is I think the developers had two different games working at the same time. Maybe they realized neither was really going to be great, so what they did was they strapped two different concepts into one game ROM, put it on a PCB, and sent it out into arcades to try to make some money off of it. Because this game has no explanation as to why you change characters, because this game has no story whatsoever. The game starts, you play the game ends, and wait till we get to the ending, folks. It might be the best ending in the entirety of Unported Playlist history. But this game just never does anything. There's never any new mechanics added. The stages just continue from left to right. You know, we have a rock there just falling from the ceiling, but it is just a single rock. You would think there would be more than one, but it's just a random occurrence. And as we get to the boss here, you will see that you can get stun locked a ton, and that is why this game is so incredibly difficult. I did have to cheat and give myself infinite health to get through the end of it. When you get stun locked, you're basically going to die. I appreciate that they tried to put this entire parry mechanic in the high, medium, and low attack, but it just does not work in execution whatsoever. I do not know anyone who could probably beat this game, but if you've ever beaten it before, fair and square, leave me a comment down below. And as you see this trapdoor open here, the sprite just gets completely screwed up until the boss comes out, and at least the boss design is fun. He's got 4 arms and he's got 4 swords. At least it's giving you something to look at. You can't say that they didn't try on the art front. It's not the ugliest game I've ever played, but it's the game that makes the least sense. And here comes the ending, because trust me, this might be the most narrative ending in all of arcade history. We beat the boss, and then the screen is going to transition to the following. End game Kabuki Z version 1.0. That's the entire ending. That's all the story you get. It told you the game was over. We went through all of this, all of the deaths, all of the time, all of the struggle to try to enjoy a game, or in this instance, make fun of it a bit for Janktoberfest, and that's the ending it gave to me. This is just an impossible game. It is so hard, and it can't even be bothered to give you a payoff, even a screen of text saying what happened. They literally just say game end. Now take a look at something from a year before that Taito developed, not just published, Rastan, one of my favorite arcade games of all time. It is a better playing game, it is a better looking game, it is a better sounding game, and it has more story. I have absolutely no idea what happened with Kabuki Z. It is maybe the most confusing game I've ever played on this channel, just because I can't even really parse what it's supposed to be doing. It is a hack and slash beat 'em up, I can understand that, but nothing else about it makes sense. The parry mechanic, the AI just 100% reads every single time on a boss fight. It is 10 out of 10 predictive. Something like Rastan's at least fun, and it gives you a decent boss fight even if it is difficult. Rastan looks better, has more colors, and they're more interesting. Kabuki Z just kind of has that flat background that does nothing the entire time. It is so interesting to look at these two games side by side, because you really just can tell which one is better, and both have the Taito name on them. But that is Kabuki Z, and as we go back to this glorious ending one more time, Game End Kabuki Z version 1.0, we get the stuff roll. Not the staff roll, but the stuff roll. But at least the stuff staff had more time to put their names in versus an actual ending. Sundra, this one was for you. He's a longtime subscriber. When I talked to him about Janktoberfest, he demanded Kabuki Z, and who am I to disappoint? But Kabuki Z disappoints, and it is over, just like this video. Bye-bye.